And this afternoon, we're learning new details about the funeral arrangements for Senator McCain. Last night, we saw him make a final trip down the mountains from his family home near Sedona to a mortuary here in the valley. Events have been set will be set over 5 days here in Phoenix and also in Washington, D.C.
And we now know that 2 former presidents and a former vice president will all be there, but not President Trump, who apparently has not been invited. Starting Wednesday, his body will lie in state for 24 hours at the old Arizona State Capitol building. Flags were lowered last night in honor of the longtime senator. There'll be a public viewing on Wednesday, which would have been the senator's 82nd birthday.
Then Thursday, a 10 a.m. memorial service will be held at North Phoenix Baptist Church in Central Phoenix. Former Vice President Joe Biden is expected to be one of the speakers. There will be a motorcade from the Capitol to the church at 9:15 in the morning.
And after the service, McCain's body will be flown to Washington. On Friday, his body will lie in state at the U.S. Capitol Rotunda, an honor given to very few people. The funeral will be Saturday at the National Cathedral in Washington, where former presidents George W. Bush and Barack Obama, who both thwarted McCain's bids for the presidency, are expected to speak. Mr. McCain will be laid to rest in a private burial on Sunday at the Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland.